Chapter 27. The Synthesis. I watched Dane crystallizing with absolute clarity. Saw every stage of the transformation I had studied in textbooks, witnessed in warning lectures, been taught to fear since my first day at the academy. The silver spread up his neck in branching patterns like frost on winter glass. Beautiful and terrible and utterly final. His face was transforming, skin becoming translucent. I could see the structure of his skull beneath the crystal surface, the delicate architecture of bone and cartilage rendered visible as his flesh hardened into living glass. His eyes were still his own, still aware, still watching me with that resignation I had come to recognize and hate. He was accepting this, accepting death because he had always accepted it. Since before I met him, since before the academy, since his family first placed culmination in his adolescent hands and taught him that dying young and heroic was success while living long was mediocrity. I saw it all in his crystallizing eyes. The death wish he had carried like a secret lover. The plan he had been building toward for years. The romantic notion that sacrifice equaled meaning and suffering proved love. He had wanted this, prepared for it, romanticized it until the reality felt inevitable. In seconds he would be gone, frozen in this moment forever, aware but unable to move or speak or change. A silent watcher, a monument to duty and sacrifice. A cautionary tale with good publicity. A beautiful glass statue, his consciousness trapped inside, experiencing the same moment for eternity, while his body radiated an aura that destroyed monsters. Everything he ever wanted, everything I refused to allow. I crossed the space between us in 3 steps. My boots hit stone that still trembled from the vent's closure. But I did not stumble, did not hesitate. My hands reached for him and I grabbed his face with both palms, feeling crystal against my skin, cold and smooth and wrong. His eyes widened fractionally, the only movement he could still make. Surprise flickered through the glass. Confusion breaking through resignation for just an instant. I pulled him away from culmination. The heirloom sword fell, silver light still pulsing from the blade. I physically wrenched him sideways, breaking his grip on the weapon, severing the connection between cleaver and implement that had been feeding his death wish for years. His body came away from the sword with a sound like tearing cloth, and I felt the magical bond between them snap like a cut string. The weapon had been part of his identity, his anchor, his excuse. The thing that let him pretend his suicide was noble duty instead of surrender. I did not care. I pulled him close and kissed him with everything I had left, desperately, passionately, refusing to let him go, refusing to let him choose noble death over messy survival. My lips pressed against crystal that was still warm, still held some trace of flesh beneath the transformation. My hands cradled his face, feeling the glass spread beneath my palms, even as I held him. The transfer triggered instantly, not the controlled exchanges we had been managing, not the careful balance of ash and ink we had practiced. This was massive, catastrophic. Build-up pouring between us in a flood that should have killed us both. I tasted winter and starlight, and the lonely cold of someone who had been dying slowly forever. The ash flooded out of him in silver rivers, draining from his body into mine through the contact of our lips. Not just today's accumulation, not just the battle's byproduct, years of it. The persistent crystallization he had carried since first touching culmination at age 17. The rigid order he had been building deliberately, consciously, because his family taught him death was destiny and glory mattered more than living. The ash he had been hoarding like poison, letting it accumulate in his joints and organs and bones because every bit of silver was a step closer to the heroic ending he craved. It drained into me and I accepted it all. My chaos wrapped around his order and transformed it. Gave it structure and purpose that was not self-destruction. The stiffness in his joints, the silver sheen on his skin, the crystalline quality to his eyes, all of it flowed into my chaos and became something different. Something that would not kill him. I felt my ink pour into him in return. The dissolution that had been fragmenting me. The black marks spreading across my skin. The competing perspectives that split my consciousness into warring voices. All the chaos I had been fighting since the Academy broke me piece by piece. He accepted it, tempered it, gave it boundaries that felt like relief rather than imprisonment. We were not just transferring magical byproduct. We were healing each other, undoing years of systematic self-destruction, choosing life when death would be so much easier and more dramatic. The kiss deepened, and the world changed. Not physically. My body remained pressed against Dane's, our lips locked together, my hands still cradling his crystallizing face. But my consciousness pulled away, stretched thin, slipped between the cracks of reality into somewhere else entirely, a space that existed between order and chaos, between his magic and mine, between what was real and what was possible. I felt Dane's presence surrounding me, not his body, his essence. Winter and starlight and the kind of cold that came from being alone too long. Rigid boundaries that refused to bend. Perfectionism that looked like strength but felt like prison. A death wish disguised as duty. He was beautiful here. Terrible and beautiful. All the things he hid beneath surface charm laid bare in this space between spaces. My chaos unfolded around him in response. Summer storms and wild joy and desperate warmth. Volatile emotions that shifted like wind. The need to be needed that drove me to exhaustion. The romantic idealism that made me believe suffering proved love. We were not balancing. Not yet. We were meeting. Seeing each other completely for the first time. His rigid control pressed against my volatile freedom. Testing. Probing. Looking for weakness or deception. I felt his wariness like physical weight. The instinct to reject connection, to maintain distance, to die alone because that hurt less than being known. I wrapped around him anyway. Refused to let him retreat into familiar isolation. My chaos touched his order, and something shifted, changed. His boundaries flexed instead of breaking. Learned to bend without shattering completely. The sensation was terrifying, more intimate than any physical touch. more vulnerable than standing naked in front of him would have been. This was deeper. This was everything. My chaos learned structure from his order. Not imprisonment. Not rigid control. Just boundaries that felt like shelter instead of cage. My emotions still ran wild, but they had direction now. Purpose. The ability to hold shape long enough to accomplish something instead of dissolving into formless panic. The magic flowing between us transformed in transit. Neither pure cleaving nor pure binding. Something new. Something that should not exist because no one had ever been desperate enough or stupid enough or in love enough to merge this completely. Silver chains became visible in this space, wrapped around Dane's essence like restraints. Years of accumulated order. Decades of self-imposed suffering. The crystallization he had been building since age 17, when his family first gave him culmination and told him dying young was success. The chains glittered. Beautiful and terrible. Each link represented a choice to suffer, to accumulate ash deliberately, to move one step closer to the heroic death his family promised would give his life meaning. I touched them with my chaos. The first chain cracked, shattered, melted away like ice under summer sun. Glass becoming flesh. Cold becoming warm. Rigid becoming flexible. Dane gasped. Or would have gasped if we had breath here. The sensation rippled through both of us. Shock and relief, and something close to grief. He had carried that chain so long it felt like part of him. Losing it meant losing the identity he had built around inevitable death. I shattered another chain. Then another. Watching years of self-destruction drain away. Watching him remember what it felt like to be alive instead of dying slowly with good publicity. My own dissolution manifested differently, fragmenting edges where my sense of self scattered into competing voices. The ink buildup that split my consciousness into multiple perspectives. I experienced 3 emotions simultaneously. Fear and joy and rage, all bleeding together until I could not tell which was real. The voices argued, competed, drowned each other out. I was 3 people, 5 people, 10. Each perspective convinced it was the real Liv, and the others were invaders. Dane gathered my pieces with his order. Not imprisoning, not controlling, just holding. Giving structure that felt like relief rather than restraint. My edges sharpened. Consciousness reintegrated. The competing voices resolved into single coherent self. One Liv. Whole. Complete. Unified. The sensation was breathtaking. I had forgotten what it felt like to be one person instead of several people pretending to cooperate. To think one thought at a time instead of 5 contradictory thoughts fighting for dominance. We were healing each other, seeing everything, every wound, every fear, every desperate hope hidden beneath performance and survival. And choosing each other anyway. The magic shifted, changed, became something unprecedented. Our essences merged, not just touching, not just balancing, actually merging. his order and my chaos becoming one unified thing that was both and neither. The sensation was overwhelming. I felt his thoughts as if they were mine, felt his fears and hopes and the desperate loneliness he had been carrying since childhood. The death wish that felt like destiny. The belief that dying young was the only way to matter. He felt my chaos, my need to be needed, my romantic idealism that made suffering feel like proof of love, the perfectionism that drove me to exhaustion, the terror that I was fundamentally broken and unworthy. We saw each other completely. Every ugly truth, every hidden wound, every desperate attempt to survive while pretending we wanted to die. And we chose each other anyway. The synthesis completed. Our magics merged into something new. Neither cleaving nor binding. Neither order nor chaos. Something that existed in the space between. Something that had never existed before because no one had been brave enough or stupid enough to try. The physical world rushed back. I was still kissing Dane, still holding his face, but his skin was warm flesh again. The crystallization had reversed completely. Every trace of silver gone. His eyes were human, alive, looking at me with wonder and terror and something that might be love. My own dissolution had vanished. The black marks gone from my skin. My consciousness unified. Whole. One person instead of fragments pretending to cooperate. We were healed. Actually healed. Not balanced. Not managing symptoms. Cured of the byproduct accumulation that killed most mages before their 30th birthday. We pulled apart slowly, both gasping, both shaking, both understanding that we had just done something impossible. The vent chamber was silent, the creature dead, the vent sealed, mission complete, but we had changed. Fundamentally. Irrevocably. We were something new now. Something unprecedented. Something that would terrify anyone who understood what we had become. Dane's hand found mine. Our fingers interlaced automatically. The magic still flowed between us. Not transfer. Not exchange. Just connection. Pure and simple and perfect.
What did we do?
His voice was rough, wondering. Something new, I said. Something that's never been done before.
They're going to study us, dissect what we've become, try to replicate it or destroy it.
I know.
We can't tell anyone. Can't let them see what we can do.
I know. He squeezed my hand. The gesture said everything words could not. We were in this together now. Whatever came next, whatever consequences followed, we had chosen life over death, synthesis over separation, each other over the heroic endings our world promised would give our lives meaning. And now we had to survive the fallout. Movement at the chamber entrance made us both turn. Commander Thrace stood in the doorway. Her weathered face was impossible to read, but her eyes were sharp, calculating. She had seen something, sensed something, knew something had changed.
The vent is sealed,
she said. Her voice was carefully neutral.
Congratulations, mission accomplished.
She stepped into the chamber. Her boots crunched on crystallized chaos debris. Her gaze swept across the destroyed creature. The sealed vent, then landed on us with uncomfortable precision.
You should be dead.
She said flatly.
2 elite teams died here before you. Experienced dyads who had been partnered for years. What happened?
We synchronized.
Dane said. The lie was smooth, practiced.
Like at Corvus, combined casting, standard convergence protocols.
Thrace's eyes narrowed. She knew he was lying. New standard convergence did not explain the complete absence of crystallization on his skin. Did not explain my perfect clarity and unified consciousness. But she did not push. Did not demand the truth. Instead, she reached into her coat and pulled out a crystal. Small, prismatic, pulsing with contained power.
Emergency extraction.
She said.
Immediate return to Academy. No delays, no contact with other mages, no reports filed until I say otherwise.
The crystal's purpose was clear. Expensive. Reserved for critical situations. Commander-level authorization required. She was getting us out. Fast. Before anyone else saw us. Before questions could be asked. Before whatever we had become could be studied or exploited or destroyed. Why? I asked. Thrace's expression shifted. Something like sympathy flickered across her weathered face before the mask returned.
Because I've been fighting this war for 30 years.
She said quietly.
And I recognize when something changes, when the rules shift, when a capability emerges that either saves us all or destroys everything.
She held out the crystal. The light pulsed in rhythm with our joined hands, with the magic flowing between us.
Take it. Return to Academy. Tell no one what happened here. Not your friends, not your instructors, not even Master Theron, not until I understand what you've become and who will try to use it.
Dane took the crystal. His hand was steady, but I felt the tension in his grip. The understanding that we had just crossed a threshold we could not uncross. Thrace stepped back, created distance. Her eyes held warning and something that might be fear.
Some capabilities are better kept quiet until you understand the landscape you're standing in.
The words settled into my bones like ice. Reality folded. The capital city blurred and vanished, replaced by the stomach-turning sensation of distance compressed into instants. I caught fractured glimpses of space between spaces. The void through which teleportation magic traveled. Normally shielded from passengers, but visible now through the raw power of Thrace's crystal. It looked like stars, like darkness, like the space where Dane and I had met when our consciousness merged, between order and chaos, between what was real and what was possible. Then we were materializing. The Academy courtyard snapped into focus with the kind of dramatic arrival that drew every eye within 100 yards. Students stopped mid-conversation. Instructors froze in doorways. The sudden appearance of 2 figures in combat-stained uniforms, arriving via emergency teleportation, meant something catastrophic. Critical injuries, mission failures, deaths, not successful vent closures. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats while everyone processed the impossibility. 2 students, alive, whole, arriving via commander class extraction. Dane stumbled slightly. I caught his arm automatically. Felt the ash and ink still flowing between us in that perfect balance. His fingers found mine, interlaced with natural ease that felt like coming home. We stood there in the center of attention, covered in chaos residue and exhaustion, while whispers began rippling outward through the assembled crowd.
Emergency extraction.
Capital deployment.
Why would they send students back like that?
Look at them.
The last observation carried more weight than it should. More judgment. I tried to pull away, but Dane's grip tightened fractionally, refusing to let me retreat into familiar patterns of isolation. Master Theron pushed through the gathering students. Her expression cycled rapidly through confusion, concern, and something that might be fear. Her weathered face looked older in the afternoon light, more tired.
What happened?
Her voice came out sharp, demanding.
Why were you emergency extracted?
Her eyes scanned us for injuries, found none, which only deepened the mystery etched across her features. Around us, questions multiplied. Voices overlapping in a cacophony of speculation and concern.
Were there casualties? Did the vent breach containment? Why waste an extraction crystal on initiates?
Master Theron's gaze sharpened. Her eyes moved from our faces to our hands, still interlaced, still channeling that perfect balance of ash and ink that felt like breathing. Then her focus shifted, locked onto something else entirely. Dane's other hand, still gripping the prismatic crystal. The emergency teleportation sigil, supposedly consumed in the casting. Single-use artifacts that burned themselves out completely, except this one had not burned out. It pulsed with residual magic, faint but unmistakable. Silver light bleeding between Dane's fingers in patterns that should not exist. Theron went very still, the kind of stillness that meant she was thinking fast, calculating, processing implications that terrified her. Around us, more instructors were pushing through the crowd. Master Corvus, Master Sellen, others whose names I barely knew, all drawn by the impossible arrival, all wearing expressions that cycled between concern and confusion. Theron stepped forward before anyone could voice their questions. Her weathered face hardened into the drill sergeant mask I knew too well.
Medical, now.
Her voice carried absolute authority. No room for questions or negotiation.
Both of you. Emergency extraction protocols require immediate examination for magical contamination and reality displacement syndrome.
The lie was smooth, practiced, delivered with the kind of casual certainty that made it sound like standard procedure rather than improvisation. Master Corvus opened his mouth, closed it. The crystal in Dane's hand told a story he could not quite piece together but knew better than to question openly. Not here. Not with dozens of witnesses.
Of course.
Corvus said slowly. His eyes moved between us and Theron with calculating precision.
Medical evaluation after emergency extraction. Standard protocol.
It was not standard protocol. Everyone knew it. But no one contradicted Master Theron when she used that tone. Theron's hand closed around my wrist. Her grip was firm, unyielding. She pulled me toward the medical wing with the kind of urgency that suggested genuine concern rather than theatrical cover. Dane followed automatically, our hands still interlaced, unwilling or unable to separate even now. Behind us, the whispers exploded into open speculation.
What happened out there?
Why does the crystal still have power?
But we were already moving. Theron navigating through corridors with the precision of someone who knew exactly where she was going and why she needed to get there fast. The medical wing loomed ahead. White stone, sterile lighting, the smell of antiseptic and healing magic. A place where conversations could happen behind closed doors. Where secrets could be buried under the guise of patient privacy and emergency treatment. Where Master Theron could extract answers before anyone else started asking the right questions. We had survived Seraphina's campaign. Survived the capital battle. Survived our own death wishes. But we had stumbled into something far more dangerous. A capability that required a commander to spend an irreplaceable artifact just to get us away from whoever might want to exploit or eliminate what we could do. I looked at Dane. Found him already looking at me. His eyes held the same realization. The same fear. The same determination. We were in deeper than we understood. And going back to being normal students was no longer an option, if it ever had been.